That was a taste of some of the sweet attachments slash upgrades we'll be making to the 3D printed RC excavator today. And attachment number 1 is going to be a push blade, as I don't currently have a 3D printable bulldozer model and would like to bridge that gap in the meantime. I want it to have a wide range of motion, being able to go from tucked up out of the way to down in push blade handstand position, where the excavator can hopefully balance on it. A tad unnecessary, but a party trick nonetheless. Addition number 2 is that I believe I was a little too hasty to call off any electrical slip rings in the initial design. A slip ring allows you to spin a joint indefinitely without worry of tangling any wires, and while the current solution of spreading that tangle over a long length of wire is effective, why not have a secondary option where you can just spin and spin and spin the main body without any consequences? Addition number 3 will be adding lights to the dipper to maximize efficiency during nighttime operations, or if your overhead light in your office suddenly goes out, don't worry, you'll still be able to see. Then finally, addition number 4, which I am personally the most excited for, will be the addition of a claw attachment that has a tilt axis, same as the bucket, but also a rotational axis, so you'll be able to spin the claw left and right. This will hopefully take the project to the next level, allowing it to move objects in even more unique ways and expand the capabilities of your mini 3D printed fleet. So breaking ground on the push blade attachment, the requirements are pretty straightforward. It's obviously got to look cool, require the least amount of parts possible, and only use one servo or motor to operate. When deciding between a servo or motor, I took a couple things into account. The most important is how much power each one can provide. The short answer is the N20 motor wins every time, as it can provide a lot of power and do it for an extended period, versus the servo can only provide a medium amount of power, and unless it's a continuous rotation servo, meaning it's been modified to rotate 360 degrees without stop, it can then only rotate 180 degrees, making it very hard to get a wide range of motion with a sufficient amount of power. The benefit to a servo is that it has a potentiometer inside, which gives feedback on the servo position and can make very precise movements. This would be helpful if I wanted to make this excavator autonomous and carry out tasks, but for the time being, I just have plans to use it as a remote control. So my brain and eyes can be the ones in charge of telling the push blade how far to go up and down. The variation of N20 motor we'll be using is another threaded 1000 RPM N20 motor, as hopefully everyone who 3D printed and built their own ordered a couple extra as spares. After printing out the first rendition of the blade, you can see the design principles for this push blade are identical to the design of the boom and dipper, where the threaded motor will connect to a push rod, which connects to the lower frame at an offset from the blade arms and will move the blade up and down when powered in each direction. I'll then route the wires down the push rod and up the rotational shaft along with the others. I used the aux attached terminal block to power the attachment, and after a quick test, I realized there was a couple restraining factors not allowing it to come up all the way, but after a quick redesign, those issues went away. Previously, to clear a large space using just the bucket and thumb, you'd have to individually pick up each item and move it, which can be a lot of fun, but if you're chasing efficiency, a little tedious. Now though, that same scenario takes just a couple passes from the push blade, and what's great is that because this blade can angle significantly upward, you're able to push parts up onto each other, which opens up even more space. Another benefit, which I didn't even think about when making this, is that you're now able to pick up slightly heavier items further away, due to being able to set the push blade down, which moves your point of rotation from the ends of the tracks to the push blade, which essentially gives you more counterweight slash leverage. So this leaves one last major point to discuss, and that's the ability to now push yourself up into a push blade handstand and bounce there just to show off to your friends and rub it in you have a custom 3D printed RC excavator. In terms of practicality though, you could maybe use this to reach something that was previously out of reach, but take that with a grain of salt, as you really got to be on your A game to not come crashing back down. Moving on to the rotational limitations of this project, even with all 6 wires being routed from the bottom into the cab, you can still easily make multiple rotations without it binding up, though it's definitely one more thing to keep track of. Or if you want to hand the controller over to, say, a kid so they can have the time of their life, it's not necessarily optimal when you have to count the rotations or tell them to start going the other way. Previously, I had pretty much ruled out these electrical slip rings, as I had initially thought they were far too large, as I remember trying to use them on another micro project and it just didn't pan out. The difference though, which I only realized a couple days after finishing this build, is that my previous project had a servo joint right in the center of rotation, making it more difficult to place a slip ring there versus this project where the motor is offset to the center of rotation, leaving space in the middle. This made me reconsider. I first looked at using some of these audio jacks as a lot of you in the comments had the brilliant idea that they are very compact diameter wise, though after doing some research, I could only find them in up to a 4-wire configuration, and with the addition of the push blade, I need 6 wires. So I picked up a couple of these micro slip rings, which are supposedly capable of handling 2 amps, and I modified the lower body and plug to hold it, which was a pretty easy adjustment to make, and then unsoldered all the wires from the motors and soldered on the ones directly from the slip ring. From there, it was as simple as locking the new wires down into their terminal blocks, and voila, we now have an excavator that can turn infinitely, and so far, I haven't had any issues. I even let it sit on my desk for 10 minutes, turning continuously in one direction, came back, tested everything, and it passed with flying colors. So I think this can be a handy upgrade if you really like the idea of infinite rotations, but not completely necessary if you want to keep your required parts list minimal. The next upgrade I want to make is simply the addition of some boom lights. I already have a spare terminal block set up under the ESP32, as well as have it toggled via the right joystick. Initially, I just planned on using the holes for the thumb motor mounts, but I then realized that as the motor tilts, it causes the lights to go askew. Hence the addition of these 2 new holes. I will admit that if you look too closely at the lights, it kind of looks like a pair of derpy eyes, but as long as you keep it in mind that they're boom lights, they look okay. Between the cab lights and these, not only can I retrieve my screwdriver from the deep dark depths of under my desk, but I can set up a full-blown nighttime operation on top of my desk. It's time to start working on greatness, the addition of the rotating claw grabber. I've got 2 different styles in mind for how I'll design this. The first will be without the electrical slip ring and the second with. The trickiest part of this whole process was deciding where and how to mount the motor responsible for actually spinning the claw, and what I opted for is to have it off to the side so it doesn't interfere with the tilt motion at all. The motor is a 100 RPM 12 volt N20, same as what drives the tracks, and then that is then geared down by 2.5. If you really wanted to slow it down a bit more, I'd recommend dropping it down to a 12 volt 60 or 40 RPM motor. For the closing and opening of the claw, I ended up opting for a servo, surprise surprise, due to a couple of different reasons. The first is the footprint lends itself much better due to being able to lay it flat and then run a rod directly to the servo horn. The other option would have been to use another N20 motor with a pinion gear installed that meshes with both arms, which, by giving myself a reality check and realizing that no matter how good I think my 3D printers are, a gear that small made of plastic isn't going to work. I also considered using a threaded N20 motor, but the footprint there is just way too big. I don't want to ask anybody to have to break out a metal cutter / Dremel to shorten the overall length of the shaft to make it work. The final and probably biggest determining factor was that if I used yet another N20 motor, I would have had to choose between having the claw or having the plow, as either one brings us up to 8 N20 motors, which is the max. By using a servo, which essentially has its own built-in H-bridge or electronic speed controller, we don't have to use one of the H-bridge outputs and can instead just plug it into our auxiliary pin connections. With that settled, I got to work making the claw itself. I watched this video by Wid RC Design on YouTube and really liked the design he chose for his claw, so I went with something similar. The servo arm runs to a push rod, which then connects to one of the claw arms at a bit of an offset so we can turn our full 180 degrees range of motion into about 45 degrees of movement on our claw. This acts as a form of power reduction and gives us a usable amount of power. Keyword is usable. Not great, but more on that in a minute. The 2 claw arms then mesh together via these gears on the top and bottom, which allow the power to transfer from one arm to the other. Luckily, I was able to make the teeth a little bit larger enough this time to still be relatively durable. I initially connected the servo claw holder to the output gear of our rotating mechanism via this extrusion and an 8mm screw. The wire from the servo then ran off to the side with enough slack to make a full 360-degree turn. Now, don't get me wrong, this setup worked for stacking Jenga blocks and moving light objects around, but the MG90S servo I was using just didn't quite have enough power, and I really wanted to be able to squeeze down hard enough on a mini skiddy cab to pick it straight up. So I started doing some research on the type of servos people use for ant-weight battle bots, and actually recalled having a conversation with a fella on my Discord server named Turnabot, who told me about these PTK servos, which are rated to make 8.6 kilograms of force at 1 centimeter. For comparison, the MG90S servos I was using were rated at 2.2 kilograms, so that's almost 4 times as much power. Now granted, these PTK servos are also meant to be operated directly off the voltage from a 2S battery versus the MG90S, which can only handle between 5 to 6 volts. On top of that, the PTK servos are also about 7 to 10 times more expensive. Regardless, I'm seeking perfection, so I went ahead and ordered a couple to test. In the meantime, I'm going to try and optimize the servo wire path, as only being able to spin the claw one turn is a bit of a buzzkill. The first order of business is changing this attachment point so there's room in the middle for a servo wire to run through, which also means I'll have to change the design of this tilt push link and add a pass through on the dipper. With those changes implemented and the wire rerouted, you're now able to get a ton of rotations. So many that I'm beginning to think whether or not I even want to add the slip ring here, as first off, it's going to be an awkward addition due to having to either mount it outside somewhere or at an angle or trim the ring itself to fit inside where the thumb used to go. For reference, I was able to spin the claw over 20 times in a single direction without having binding issues. So while I may pull the same exact move I did on the main excavator pivot and add a slip ring later, I'm going to go ahead and call it good for now. My much anticipated PTK servo showed up about 2 weeks later, and wow, are these a little bit more dense than my other servos. Without wasting a moment, I got them swapped with the other servo, which was super easy to do and didn't require any alteration of the design. Initially, I just plugged it directly into the same rail as the previous servo, which is supplying 5 volts, meaning I'm slightly at the lower end of what this servo can use. But holy moly people, this thing has some beans. I'm usually not impressed by micro servos, probably because all I use are MG90Ss and SG90S servos, but even at 5 volts, this thing has some power. The one initial downside I could find was that if I clamped it down on a hard object, which refrained the servo from moving at all, and then told it to continue past that point, after a couple seconds, it would stall and release its grip. If I took care to only move it enough to establish a firm grip, it worked great. To see if this was a result of being on the lower end of the voltage spectrum, I took some jumper wires and powered it directly off the batteries, which is a 2S. While this did increase the overall power of the servo, it didn't eliminate the stalling, which I'm assuming is a temperature protection circuit that cuts power to the servo once it reaches a certain temperature. While this isn't a problem that necessarily needs to be solved, as it's protecting the servo from burning up, I did print out the claw push rod and TPU, which has a bit more give, allowing the servo to still reach its requested position by stretching the push rod and not stalling while gripping something. Which, real quick, let's talk about 3D printers. I recently had my hometown high school reach out to me about building the Mini Skiddy as a class project. And after dropping off the kits, it became clear that while they had 3D printers that were capable of a lot, they just weren't very user-friendly. And to the kids starting 3D printing, you don't necessarily want to finish designing something and then have the real trouble start when you try to print it. So I shot an email over to Bamboo Labs, who I initially bought my P1S from a little over 8 months ago. I inquired about a potential collaboration in which they'd sponsor some 3D printers for the high school to use. Them being the awesome people they are, agreed and sent out 2 A1 combo units. I worked with the A1s for a little over a week, and all I have to say are great things. They're whisper quiet and reliable. After dropping them off at the high school, I'm confident and a little hopeful that not only will that class have success using them, but that other students will see it and get excited about 3D printing and designing. But here's the kicker. I didn't just receive 2 A1 combos from Bamboo Labs. I actually received 4. Meaning I have 2 extra brand new A1 combos just waiting to be put to work. I'd like to donate them somewhere where they'll be put to good use, so leave recommendations in the comments below. And of course, thank you Bamboo for agreeing to help. Back to the excavator side of things, which feels like a Pokemon that evolved. I'm incredibly happy with how it turned out, and as you saw in the beginning of the video, I took advantage of the new dexterity and made a sandwich, which I did in fact eat. Though full disclaimer, I did initially loosen that pickle jar. Now if you want to 3D print and build the excavator for yourself, the files are of course free on printables. And then if you want to support the channel, I have a step-by-step guide on ordering the circuit board, how to upload the code to the ESP32, and everything you might need to know about these new attachments, available as part of the ProfessorBoots Workshop on my website. A huge thank you to everyone who's already a ProfessorBoots Workshop member. It lets me keep making these fun, small 3D printable projects. And I'm still taking votes on what the next project will be. Right now, I think it's tied up between a dozer, semi-truck, and a crane. They're all neck and neck. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next build.